Hello, hello everyone. We are live. Hello Arcane, welcome back to another stream. How's everyone doing today? I'm gonna immediately make sure that I have my audio routed correctly here, so that we don't get any embarrassing mishaps. Elis Autio says, hey, well, hello to you. Based on your name, you're a fellow Finn. So welcome, welcome. Audio's all right. Thank you. Thank you for the report. I hope the video is also all right. Feel free to let me know if this is looking sharper than normal. Hopefully it is, or if it is indeed the same or even worse than normal. Today is going to be a little bit of a test stream in the sense that I recently upgraded my internet connection, and I also spent a little time messing around with the encoder settings in OBS. So hopefully it should look sharper than previously. At least YouTube is not complaining about the bitrate anymore. So it does seem to be pretty good so far. But I guess that remains to be seen. Like previously, certain things have just completely wrecked the video output, as I'm sure you've come to know if you've been following me for a while. And part of that might have been just, you know, bad settings in OBS. Part of it might have been just my internet connection being pretty bad overall. So Finland is kind of known for our good internet connections, at least we used to be, and that did not concern me, because we live in a place where we still can't quite get fiber unless you pay out of your rear for that. And so I've been living with a 4G connection for a while, and I finally decided to upgrade to 5G. Which is something I probably should have done already previously. And of course the upstream is not like terribly fast, even on a recent wireless connection. But at least we're approaching like 100 megabit per second now, so that's kind of neat. I don't know, my bandwidth for 360p streaming. All right, well, you're perhaps not one of them who have been suffering greatly from my poor quality then, but it's kind of painful to watch some of these VODs later on when I realize that the quality is not really where it's supposed to be. Right, so I have the audio. Interestingly, also for the editor, I don't know why that's muted, but I have the audio muted for the game. And so let's have a little bit of a leisurely drive through this area here to see where we are at. So as you can see, I've been doing a little bit of ground painting and grass and stuff like that here lately. Actually, all of these cliffs are also now finally UV unwrapped and textured even. I only have like the base texture layer currently, so we have like a little bit of edge highlights, and we have a little bit of some sort of rock texture here. So this still need to be probably hand painted. Then of course we get the light mapping done, and that kind of adds a little bit of extra flair to it. But these are actually all all textured now, so that's kind of interesting, I guess. Then when we move on to another part of the level, we drive through the tunnel here. We can see we get to a place where, first of all, these cliffs are not textured at all. These are just like, I don't think this is properly even UV unwrapped currently. And the ground is obviously very much a work in progress. Here we have a little bit of more final stuff again. That's just because like some of these things kind of like belong to the same mesh, so I've just done like one of these meshes at a time. But this area here is obviously very much in progress still. And I was thinking we would probably spend a bit of time just painting this area today, particularly the ground, and seeing where that takes us. Maybe we'll do something completely different later on. Remains to be seen. But that was kind of my idea, my plan. The reason for doing this level now is that I kind of want to have an alternative biome, if you will, for the game. We have the other level, which is very, very green, and I want this to be a slightly more sort of arid, have a little bit more arid look to it. So that we have essentially sort of like a different biome here. And one of the reasons for that is I want to start collecting screenshots for the Steam page of the game. So Steam page is something that I have on my to-do list. It should be coming online before the summer, and so I kind of need a place to show that off. If the entire game, if all the screenshots in the entire game show very, very green places, it kind of looks like there's only a single biome, and that's not the case. That's not my plan for the entire game to be super green and grassy. And so I have a little bit of this browner stuff here, particularly in this part of the level. And it is still grassy. You can see the grass is kind of like blending into the terrain as I actually kind of hope it does. That's sort of like a part of the art style here. If you fly the camera underneath the terrain, you can sort of see the actual grass without anything else. So there's still quite a bit of grass here, yes, but it's kind of like dry grass or like more arid stuff. And yes, we need the level. We have all of the quick meshes, the Blender Sync quick meshes. I just put them down here when I have actually made sort of proper Blender meshes out of them. Classic Blender things that I then export into the game normally, and I just store them underneath here. So you can see that this area here that like isn't done yet, isn't textured in any way. These cliffs here actually don't have a copy beneath the surface, because they are still using the Blender Quick Mesh stuff up here. But I typically do this when I move something to be sort of like a classical mesh, if you will. I kind of move the quick mesh underneath the ground for a little bit longer, so that if I need it later, I can just easily bring it back. Good evening, Red. Glad to have you with us. Always amazed by your game engine. Very impressive work. Well, thank you. Thank you. It's getting pretty useful. I agree. Oh, and hey, Olex. Welcome back. You as well. So, there are a few things that we need to do. Oh, I should mention one thing more about the ground color. So, this is essentially kind of like the base ground color here. This kind of what do we even call this? It's called just default ground, I think. Yeah, that's default ground. Is this kind of like brownish thing with a little bit of a texture pattern going on. It's very actually difficult to see here, but it's called terrain pattern 512 darker. It has a very faint sort of like spottiness to it, which just makes it, you know, not be a single color all through. You can actually see the pattern here in this area here without the grass. So that's kind of like the base color. Then you can see here that actually if we fly the camera like this, you can see that there's a little bit of like painting going on here. I have like a couple of different sand variants here. One is slightly red and one is then sort of brighter. Oh, yeah, let's not do that. Let's not fly off into the distance there. And then we have like gravel and stuff. But this is kind of like everything is based on this color here, and it's just like up on that rock there. I haven't bothered to paint it because it's barely visible from the level anyway. I was thinking that in this kind of glade here, where the warehouse is positioned, that we would actually kind of start fading towards like the green that we see in the demo level. So this area would actually be kind of green because this is kind of, you know, essentially like protected from the elements a little bit. And then when we go towards this quarry here, this would again kind of start fading towards this stuff here. So it might take a little bit of figuring out how to make that. And then we would paint some of this, you know, grass and different colors just on top of that. And that should look pretty nice. Hey Volodymyr, for the first time managed to catch you live. Thanks for sharing your work. Absolutely. Me sharing my work is essentially my way of doing marketing currently. It needs to be a little bit more structured in the future, but yes, absolutely, and happy to share. So using our hand-rolled Blender file reader thing for development and export the scene in some other format when it's final. Yeah. None of the stuff that you actually see here is Blender. This is all exported FBX stuff, which is then like it gets exported from Blender as an FBX file, and then it gets converted into my own format. So the engine only reads my own format. It doesn't actually work with Blender directly. The thing you're probably referring to is the Blender sync system, which I showed off in a recent video, which allows me to just like send things back and forth between Blender and the level editor very, very easily and automatically. So let's say we want to edit this. This is actually just a huge mesh here, this entire thing. I need to probably split that up into several different ones. So you can just click edit in Blender here, and it sort of brings over a piece of the level into Blender, along with the current state of the rest of the level, and then you can sort of modify it here. But on a technical level, it doesn't really differ from just having a separate blend file, exporting that mesh into an FBX, and then converting it into my own format, right? It's exactly the same thing. The only thing is that Blender Sync sort of does that whole thing automatically and quickly without me having to really do anything, and then it places the new level data here in the level. So that's kind of what it is. But yes, what I've done with these other, you can see, like for example this cliff here. We have terrain here. This is like painted terrain with a little bit of grass and stuff on it, and then it kind of fades into this cliff here. This is a mesh, and this is the height field terrain. And so if we actually disable the grass for a little bit, bloop. Now we can probably see the edge. Now you can see the edge here between the terrain and the actual mesh much more easily. Like this, it kind of goes around. And then if we enable the grass again, it kind of gets hidden by the grass, and that's one reason I want grass in the first place. But this object here is actually of type depot level specific cliff 1, so we can find it here. That's refinery level specific. It's that one, which looks kind of weird from that angle, I guess. But we can find it here in the asset browser. Level specific depot, the depot one, and then we can switch to this guy. So you can see this is the mesh that we have. Let's toggle off some of these things here. So we have we actually use the exact same mesh for the physics currently. It just generates physics data out of it. And this is the mesh that kind of makes up this part of the cliff here. And you can see that I've actually painted a little bit of you know, grass color onto this to make the transition more seamless. And what I typically do is at some point when I'm sort of like, okay, this is good, I'm gonna want to use this part of the cliff now. I click this guy, which is the Blender sync thing, and I click edit in Blender. Now it's moved underground, so it's gonna look a little strange. But here we have essentially the object. Then you can just go like save copy, and you save it somewhere with the intent of using it as just an absolutely standard Blender file with no special thing attached. And then this thing gets exported as an FBX file. So you can find cliff 1. It's probably called depot cliff 1 FBX. Here we go. So here's the FBX file that then gets exported just completely normally by just going through like export and then FBX from Blender like that. And then we can toggle on, okay, yes, we want physics data and blah blah blah. That's sort of like the workflow. But yeah, the game engine doesn't use Blender itself directly in any way, and like none of the stuff that you see here in the level are actually like Blender objects. It's all gone through not one but two conversions, because first it's like FBX. First it gets exported to FBX and then I convert it to my own format, which then gets rendered. Is the grass made out of procedurally generated meshes? It is. Yes. It is. It's shell texturing. Shell texturing is the technique. So if we select, like here we have a few of these grass areas. You kind of like you specify an area in where you want grass, and then you paint within that area, and it kind of manages its own texture in the background and all of that. So we take this guy and we do highlight. So shell grass part highlight. We get this debug material. This can be kind of handy to actually very clearly and easily see where you have grass, but also to be able to like debug the system if there's any need for that. So you can see that this thing is actually made up of like individual layers. Each layer has its own color. I'm hoping this will now come through sort of nicely with my new settings. So I think we have a maximum of 32. Yeah, max shell count is set to 32. You can make that higher if you want to. And then we can go in and edit this guy. So I just start erasing stuff like this, and it kind of just erases like those layers. And if we bring down the strength, you can see that we can actually sort of cut into this thing without kind of cutting through the entire way. Let's make that fall off really tight, and we can just cut through pieces like this. Very sort of exactly. I'm thinking about maybe using this for snow as well, because then we could have deformable snow. So if you imagine this not being blue but rather white, then I think it could make for kind of neat looking snow. And then you can sort of specify, like I think here, for example, I have specified that this object should go on top of this, this mesh here. So it sort of snaps to the top of this mesh, but it doesn't, for example, snap to the top of the tree. So it kind of does a little bit of ray casting here to figure out where this thing should go. So you can kind of imagine this being kind of useful for snow as well. It's like something that has covered, have parts covered in snow, kind of neatly. Leaving tire tracks in snow would be cool. Yeah, exactly. I already do actually. Yeah, let's not save anything here. I already actually do tire tracks in the grass. It's not very difficult to do. So if you drive like this, you can see that we actually get sort of tire tracks erasing the grass here. It can be a little difficult to see on the stream, I bet. And then sort of, if we leave the camera here, eventually the grass is gonna grow back. So now you can see it sort of coming back after a while. And that's something that we could definitely do with the snow as well. But we'll see. I actually don't have any snowy areas planned for the campaign currently. I have the campaign pretty, or sort of like the first, shall we say, the first part of the campaign. You always need to plan for more, of course, but the first part of the campaign doesn't really have any snowy parts, so I might have to leave that for later. Yeah, you can see that the tire tracks actually only erase things on the terrain. So if I drive here out on the cliff, if there's grass here on the cliff mesh, that actually doesn't get erased. That's a little bit of a limitation. But then you drive back onto the proper terrain here, and it gets erasing it once more. All right, let's just reopen this because I don't really know what kind of changes I made there. Just to make sure we don't have any funky things going on. No funky things, please. So, let's get to painting this guy. I think I had already like a slightly greener material. Let's see, darkener. No, I don't actually. Okay, that's fine. We can add it. We have 2 unused slots here. I support 8 different terrain materials currently, and they can have like their own visuals and also their own physics. So one material can be more slippy, for example, than another. But okay, I think yeah, this is actually debug fallback is this guy. So essentially we have 3 because we don't really need this after we've erased all of the debug fallback stuff. So if we just set probably the fall off to something very small or essentially non-existent, we can just start painting this thing. And you can see here that even though I just paint here on the road, it actually kind of goes under the road. And that's because these materials are applied in order. And I think we'll actually probably want to do this tunnel as well. Tunnel might need its own material here inside of it. It's probably just gonna be mostly gravel actually. I just start painting this. You can see this is actually pretty quick to do. Essentially, we just want to get rid of that debug material there. So they're applied in order, and then depending on how much of something comes through, it kind of determines the what's it called? The dominant physics material. And then that is the thing that is used for the physics. So I'm just painting this all with this now, and then we can come in here and paint this with the greener one. If we want to make this slightly more green, this area. Now we have some funkiness here with the shadows here underneath this monorail. I don't know exactly what's going on there. I think it's probably like just some of these faces are sort of perpendicular to the sun rays. It just means that it kind of misses them. That's not great. Oh well, gonna have to figure that out as well. Inside this quarry, we definitely don't want to have any grass, though. So what should we put here? Let's save that and try out the few different. So I have sand and sand alternative. So if I just this actually goes on top of the gravel, okay. And then we have sand, which is this bright one, which also goes on top of the gravel because gravel is over there. And then we have the sand ones. Okay. Okay. So let's maybe start with the sand one. Put a little bit of fall off here and bring the strength down quite a bit. Something like that maybe. And then I'm gonna start painting some of this. Like, of course, I want to be kind of economical with my choices here, because we only have those 8 spots to work with. So it might be that I would actually want to have like a different... Oh, sand alt actually needs to be... Yeah, okay. And this is a little strange actually, because sand alt actually kind of appears before. There's like sand, and then there's the alternative sand, and alternative sand comes first, so that's strange. But let's paint this with a little bit of alternative sand, and then do like a little bit of normal sand, if you will, on top of it. Let's see how that works. And again, this kind of goes on top of the gravel, so if I just paint out here, the road is gonna be red as well. That's just how it works. Alright, so the connection strength is reported to be excellent, so that's nice. It's nice to see. I do actually wonder how much of this is just me messing around with those encoder settings and how much of it is actually like the internet connection. But the previous connection was very, very flaky in many regards. So this is definitely an improvement. Something like this. I typically actually I sort of push the roads into the ground a little bit. I mentioned this before, so if you've heard me talk about this, you're gonna have to excuse my repetition of things. But if we let's see, probably bring that up a little bit. Yeah, okay. So you can do things like this, and you can just sort of paint where the road runs. The road is actually kind of narrow here. And this sort of like lets you just push the whole thing down a little bit while you're using your while you're holding down your mouse button. It kind of records which pixels or texels have been affected, and only affects every one single time. So you can just push the road down like this. And this now has to be sort of manually fixed up, which takes a little bit of practice, perhaps. Oh, let's actually get rid of that now. The roads tend to look much more natural if they're sort of like slightly depressed into the earth. You can see here that like there's like a slight sort of slope down, and then actually kind of sort of like a middle bump, and then another slope. So sort of like emulating like where the tire tracks would have gone when people are driving on these roads. And I haven't really done that. You can see that there's perhaps a little bit of that going on here already in this part of the level, but I want more. So let's push this down even more. Yeah, maybe 6. I think 6 is probably good. That's not the right tool. That would be the right tool. Yeah, that's better. I'm gonna need to fix up some of these things. And because I only support circular brushes, these kind of connections aren't really all that easy to fix up. Gonna need to be done by hand. That can't be helped. Yeah, maybe something like that. And then then we sort of erase these weirdnesses that tend to happen a little bit. Here I actually still want to, I think, press this down a little bit more, but let's take one thing at a time. And the reason I'm doing this now is because like this pressing down of the road into the ground kind of goes hand in hand with the painting of the sand that I typically do next to the road. I'll show you what I mean in just a second. I actually kind of think that maybe we don't want... Okay, let's see. I haven't really decided how I want this thing to look. Basically, that's kind of what I'm saying here. So sand. Start painting this kind of like along these edges here. I'm not completely sold on that red sand for this place, but I don't know. It might work. Might work. Can maybe let the ground color shine through in a little bit in some of these areas. then of course put some grass there. And always tends to sort of give a little bit of credibility to these places. This is also just very, very flat. Let's do something about that. That probably wouldn't be that flat. And sort of like a rule of thumb that like if you make if you have like a change in the material somewhere on the terrain, it kind of helps to sell the idea of a different material if you also have a little bit of change in the elevation around that point. That's what I've found to work pretty well quite often. So for example here, when we have like a clear difference in elevation here, if you paint a little bit of sand along that sort of edge of the road there, side of the road, kind of helps to sell the idea that like, okay, yeah, there's like the green stuff, the natural stuff, and then there's the sort of pushed down into the earth road here, and then on the border of those two we have like, you know, just heaps of sand and stuff that have sort of collected over the years. Right, let's see, is this, I wonder if this is actually planar. Is it? Kind of seems to be actually. Yeah, let's just up the strength, and we can probably just kind of cut this out inside the tunnel like this quite easily. And it will actually sort of meet, I think, a similar thing here on this side. Yeah, you can see here the road was actually already a little bit lower here, so actually it just happened to almost perfectly meet this depression that I did here previously on this side. How fortunate. All right, a little bit of tea. Let's keep going. You can see I very deliberately just stopped doing all kinds of decorations here at this particular point previously, just so that I wouldn't have to think about, oh, did I do that already there? It's basically like everything is done here. Well, not everything, there's still gonna be details, of course, like more meshes probably, but like the terrain painting is done over here, and it's very much not done on this side. What I want to do here, we're actually cutting through kind of deep here. That might be fine. We just don't want to hit the rock mesh, which is yeah, you can see we're kind of close to the rock mesh. And we can preview the tessellation here. You can actually see that we are seeing the rock mesh there in the pre-tessellated version. Okay, that's fine, because I'm going to smooth this out anyway. So the way that works is that in the editor, terrain is typically GPU tessellated. If you remember a few years ago, we had the tessellation shaders were all the rage. D3, 2011 and that era of graphics APIs. And so I made a terrain editor for this which leverages that, so we can just modify textures essentially, and then it gets turned into a mesh on the fly. Without having to like redo the geometry by hand every time you make a change. That's how this terrain editor works. Editor actually just tweaks and writes to the textures. But then those tessellation shaders aren't available everywhere. You can probably do a lot of that actually with some like indirect draws and compute shaders these days. But at some point I was like, I don't want to be, you know, tied to systems that only support that. So I made like a pre-tessellator, which is currently actually used by default in the game. That's weird. What tool do I have? It's a smoother. Okay. I think I want to smooth this from the top instead. All right. Yeah. Yeah, why not? Rightio. I think we're going to want to push this down a little bit more, like kind of continue what we were doing here. Not a whole lot though, but a little. So, let's see, 0.3, that may be too much, actually. That might be actually pretty good. Let's do a little bit of pushing down this, and then we sort of clean this up. I think this is probably gonna be fine. Yeah, I have that one that one camera movement mode there, which kind of freaks out if I look straight down and use it. I should probably fix it. Most likely some sort of weird math glitch. Tends to just like move the camera away into the far distance somewhere. So that's a little stupid. Okay, I wonder again if this is now planar, because if it is planar, we can record the height and then just do the same thing we did there in the tunnel. Seems to be almost perfectly planar, this small little valley. Valley of Plenty. And then when we lower the ground, of course, we're going to have to move some of these things down. We even have some dynamic objects here, which I will probably want to simply drop using physics. So let's do only selected objects and then just drop them down. There we go. Stop. That's that. Oh, that free camera thing is annoying. Let's just clear that. I know I have a free camera set up there. Oh, we've actually missed a part here. Let's fix that. Right, so not that. That off. That will work better. Alright, 14 concurrent viewers. That's a pretty good number for me. Welcome everyone to a little bit of chill, laid back level design on this beautiful Sunday evening. Mother's Day, actually, at least here in Finland. I don't know if that is like a... Is that on the same date everywhere? At least here it's Mother's Day. Was kind enough to let me stream even though it's Mother's Day. That was very cool of her. And now we're up to 15. I think like the maximum number of viewers I've had is something like 20, maybe 25. For a very brief moment in some stream, well, I shouldn't say years ago because I haven't really been streaming for years, but maybe a year ago or so. Yeah, let's just fix all of this. And then of course, we're making a car game here. So a very important part when you're doing this sort of design is to actually just drive everywhere, right? Take essentially like the fastest car you have and then drive on the roads. Make sure you don't, get stuck on something. Make sure you don't do any sort of weird somersaults because you've sort of changed the shape of the terrain somehow in a way that like just makes it super annoying. And those things tend to show up most of all with like the really fast cars. So if we take the Scout, for example, and just drive everywhere, that's typically a pretty good indication. Like a game like this, you're kind of expecting that that if you go outside of the, like if you go off-road essentially, then there's going to be a little bit of bumpiness. There's going to be a risk of you just running into something or whatever. But if like the actual roads are just super annoying and bumpy and don't feel like nice to drive, then that's not good. That is not going to be good. So I think I'm gonna do that in just a second here. Once I fix the rest of these places. That should probably be... yeah, I don't know. This looks weird. The shape here is weird. Let's bring this down, but not that much. Maybe here as well. Just a tad. All right. How's that? Maybe that's a good place to just be driving a little bit. So just driving on a road like this should be kind of like, you know, easy to do. It shouldn't make the car bump up and down like crazy. There can be a little bit of that going on in this particular game because it's not supposed to be like tarmacked roads or anything like that. Oh, there we actually, yeah, here we have some stuff that we've forgotten to smooth out. That's fine. That's fine. Right, we need to look at this with the pre-tessellation. Yeah, here we can see actually even without it, we can see a little bit of wonkiness. We need to do a little bit of smoothing out this area. Yep, that's better. Same thing here. That, as they say, is better. I wonder if we should actually just paint all of this with gravel inside of the tunnel there. That might be something to think about. But okay, let's keep going with this a little while more. So I think what I'm gonna do here is not actually push this down any further, but maybe instead do the opposite, or get the same result but do it the opposite way by lifting this up a little bit here, this side, just ever so slightly. Ever so slightly. You can sort of see a little bit of a shadow coming in there from the lighting, of course. Nice. It just means that we're sort of getting that effect that we're going for. And then we need to smooth this out as well. Raise up the terrain a little bit here. Not too much though. But if you don't do this, then the roads tend to look like they are painted onto something which tries to be a terrain. Like obviously we are painting these roads and other things onto the terrain here, but we don't want it to look like they're painted there. We want it to look like, oh, that's a road. If that makes sense. And if there's no height difference at all where the road turns into, you know, grass or whatever is beside the road, then it kind of just looks like, what is that? What is that? That's sort of my philosophy, at least. So a little bit of sand painting here on the side. A bit more strength. Oh, the wrong tool again. A little bit more fall off maybe. Yeah, I think I'm gonna just sort of outline these roads here now with this. That typically doesn't look good, you know, after the first pass is done. Then you need to go in there and add, you know, more details and kind of imperfections. It's kind of easy that it easily goes so that it looks exactly like it is actually, that I've just gone in and painted outlines on these roads. Which is not what we want. But still, it can be helpful to have a sort of starting point, which is almost like just uniformly thick, like this. And then you go in and just like start erasing things and like smudging it out a little bit. And then of course here we go still to the other side here of the tunnel. I typically do like I said, I have like a slightly raised part in the middle, which I also highlight with a little bit of more sort of sand. And I think that's gonna be a pretty recurring thing basically all throughout this game, that like roads are these kind of just dirt roads, gravelly dirt roads. Hey Poseidon, welcome back. Glad to have you. Yeah, we'll see if we get to grass painting today. This area, it desperately needs grass, and ever since I got the grass system working, which was about a year ago, I've almost kind of changed the way I do terrain painting. I used to just paint colors and kind of go like, not really happy with how it looks. Doesn't really look like terrain. Like painted plastic or something. Now that I have the grass system working, at least to me, it just looks like infinitely more realistic. And I've sort of switched to kind of painting colors and grass. So I don't do like all the colors first anymore, and then grass. I just do sort of both at the same time. A lot of the time. But of course now we're doing roads, and there's not really gonna be any, or at least not a lot of grass on the road. So here we're not doing that, but there might be a little bit. Of stuff. Are you doing this full time, or do you have a day job? I am not doing this full time, but one might say that this is my main job right now. Actually, not right now. It's complicated. It has been my main job for a little while to do this. Madrigal is like an actual honest-to-God grown-up company. It's not just a YouTube channel, it's not just a name that I use, it's an actual company. And I do a little bit of software development, non-game related software development through Madrigal as well. Which takes up a little bit of time every now and then. It's not like a whole lot of it, and I kind of try to keep it that way because I want to concentrate on the game dev side of things. But then, and in particular right now actually, I do work at a AAA studio as an engine programmer. So I'm completely self-taught when it comes to like anything art related. And that's why I typically tell people that whatever I claim about art and like basically anything that I've just told you about like level design and stuff, you should really sort of take anything like that with a grain of salt, because I'm not formally trained in any of it. I don't really know what I'm doing. I just do it because it's fun. But I have worked for a significant number of years as a programmer, both in the games industry and outside of the games industry. And I do that currently. That explains hexagon rocks. These are, like, if you don't know, these are basalt pillars. And they're an actual thing that occur in real life. Let's see if we can find a nice. Well, here we have a picture. I guess I still believe I'm not the best artist, but this is an actual thing that occurs in real life. If you didn't know that, it's basically like how lava flows cool down over time, and they tend to form these really kind of cool looking hexagon shapes. So read up on this if you didn't know they were a thing. Yes, anyway, right now, and for sort of like almost like annoyingly much this early summer, I will be doing work that's not really related to Madrigal. I would definitely like to just work completely full time on this thing. It would make shipping the game faster. But for the past week, I've been doing my other work, working at an actual studio, and I will be doing that next week as well. Then I will be doing a couple of weeks of Madrigal stuff, and then I will be back to help out the guys, shipping significantly larger projects than this. And then after those 2 weeks, I will be, well, there's the summer holidays and everything like that, but then I will have a bit more time to do this thing again. So I'm sort of alternating, but no, it's not full time. I should also say that my employer is just like super awesome, and just the fact that they let me do this, it's not something that like I take for granted. It's very kind of them to allow me to do it, even commercially. So I should be very happy for that. But of course, it makes the development a bit slower. These basalt pillars aren't final, by the way. They are literally just extruded hexagons here. You can see here some of these I've added a little bit of detail. They're a little bit crooked. They have a little bit of sort of like chips and things like this. I kind of think that this is how I want them to look in the end. The majority of these are just like extruded hexagons, so they don't look very, very nice. But they will. Let's go crazy with this sand here and see where that takes us. I think I kind of want to be... Actually, before we do that, let's paint a little bit of the alternative sand, because it kind of goes underneath the sand. So let's do a little bit of alternative sand stuff here, actually kind of like a lot of it, and then we'll paint sand on top of that once again. How's this actually looking? Yeah, because when I toggle the pre-tessellation on and off, like it changes a little bit. One is done in a shader, the other one is done just in C++ beforehand. And you kind of need to take that into account when you're doing this. That the terrain might not look exactly like it does in the editor, and it also depends on the distance, because like both systems actually have level of detail systems. But you can adjust how quickly it should toggle between the different levels and all of that. But still, something to keep in mind. So I'm painting this red stuff here. I'm not super sold on it being completely red, but then we can paint other crap on top of it. I think it will look kind of neat. Let's put a bit of red here as well. Maybe even some on the gravel there. How about that? This is a little strange, this whole formation of the ground there. Yeah. Normally, I don't really leave these terrain walls kind of visible like this. And this was just sort of like a test that I did to leave kind of visible like this. Essentially, this face here, because they don't necessarily always look very good when they're just a height field, and so kind of depending on the angle might get some really gnarly tessellation going on. I think this looks okay, but I'm not like it's not super beautiful, right? And I'm not exactly sure what I want here. That is kind of like the issue, if you will. It may be that I'm just gonna actually cover these up if I can't, you know, achieve something that that I like, basically. Yeah, so let's put some gravel here. I think this might want to have like a little bit more sort of gravel base on this. Let the gravel kind of shine through. Now sort of the cross section of the earth here is a little too perhaps red for my taste. Like this, and then we can do the alt, sand alt, and remove a little bit of this. And yeah, there can be a little bit of the red stuff there still, but not like too much. Alright, something like that. Yeah, we're gonna put some grass and stuff here next to the road. I think that is something that we will definitely want to have there. Might even want to have a separate grass object for the quarry itself. Just so that we can filter out some of these collisions very sort of precisely. But we'll see when we get to that. Get rid of some... Oh, nope. Nope. Some of the redness here still. Yeah, the red stuff was something that I kind of tried, but determined that, yeah, I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling the red stuff. So let's get rid of it. At least not this much of it. It can be a little bit. A little bit can be fine. Is of course always these kind of supports are always are also red, so there's a little bit of redness overload maybe. Hey Matt. Grassing today, but yeah, potentially. I'm doing the grass painting, or not grass painting, sorry, terrain painting. Terrain painting first of all. We might get to grass in a little bit. Yeah, this is starting to look better. It's not particularly nice yet, but it's starting to look better. Okay, we might want to have a little bit of a bump. Bump. We also need to remember the scale of this. Like here's a person. These are actually pretty large. These basalt pillars. Actually, kind of positively huge, if I may say so. And one thing that I should keep in mind is that, like, okay, this is supposed to be, you know, a quarry that extracts these, or a quarry where they extract these pillars and then they ship them off to somewhere to actually like build stuff with them. I don't know if that is something that people actually do in real life. If that is like practical. I know they're used for like, you know, decorative purposes. but I don't know if they're actually used to build on. But in my fiction here, they are. So I probably want to go back to the demo level at some point and just like add something there that's actually using these things, right? That could be kind of nice. Yeah. Yeah, color just sort of changes everything, makes it nicer. Yeah, here we can see like this is what the transition from terrain to cliff looks like. Actually, we can even see the contrast better here on the other side of the terrain, or the tunnel. So here's the transition from cliff to terrain. It's super obvious and sharp. And then if we drive here, you can see here is what it looks like when I've done my whole sort of fading business. And you can't really see where in fact you can't see where the edge is anymore, because like the grass also goes out onto the cliff. You can see it if you drive here, and sometimes in the tire track there, for example. Here you can see it a little bit, and here as well, until the grass then sort of grows back in and covers it up again. There we go. So it's not perfect, but it's good enough for my purposes. I'm kind of happy with how it covers that up. Alrighty then. What is the next thing? The next thing might be to get that very, very green grass from the other level and store it. And then we start to sort of fade from this to the green over here, right? That could be an interesting thing to try out. I think I'm gonna go make myself a cup of tea, but before we do that, let's go to Refinery Blockout and copy that other color. And then we can use it here in this level. How about that? So here we have a significantly greener grass. So let's go to, let's see, what do we call it? So default grass, I think it might be this one. That's gravel. And then we have the sands. And then the darkener. Yeah, so this is exactly it. So let's do advanced edit, and we can copy the hex code. That's the, what is it, diffuse. Is that one. And then ambient would be this one. And then the default texture, we can just copy that. Or don't default texture, but diffuse texture. Texture scale is that one. Yeah. Yeah, I remember actually having several grasses at some point, but I think this level ended up using just one. In the end. So what we can do here now then is default ground, debug fallback. Let's just rename this to grass. And paste that there. And then we have the diffuse color is that. And we have the ambient, which is that. And that was 25. Like so. So now we take the grass, make that the active material, and we start to paint. You can see this sort of like healthier, greener grass color being used here. It's a subtle difference, but it is there. So we just paint actually this entire kind of valley of plenty with it. Maybe around like this. And let's get rid of that for now. Do that fade then, you know, properly. And here, just have a, yeah, it's pretty actually big contrast, but it depends a little bit on if you're looking at it in sunlight or not, and so on. Something funky there. And then basically what we will want to do is like fade from this color over here to probably around here, and then we will at that point we will have just like the normal one. And I wonder how we should actually do that. Might be that I should actually paint this in the grass and then start to fade it. We'll see. That remains to be seen. It's not really something that my painting tool supports directly, so we're gonna have to figure something out for that. But let's do that in a second. I'll take about a 10-minute break, go make myself a cup of tea. Let's put on a quick break visual for you guys, and I will see you in a little while. Alrighty then, folks. We are back. Just get rid of my copy-paste document there. Alright, so how do we want to do this? Save the level and try out some things. So if I start painting this, just start painting this sort of like with actually very little strength. Say like 2. Yeah, now it takes a little time for it to come through there. Maybe that is actually the easiest way to do this. Like the colors are kind of close enough that it might actually just work like this. Now we have sort of like a fade going on towards towards that. But I do wonder if like we shouldn't actually move the fade a little back towards the back of this valley after all. So that it's not so super obvious that okay, this is not where the grassy area begins, but it's just sort of like a more gradual thing. I think that might be nice, and that also means that we can sort of pull it out to here a little bit. Not too much, but a little bit. And then here also. Try to fade this kind of nicely and neatly and seamlessly. There is of course no need to do this at all. It's just something that I kind of came up with, that hey, maybe this could make this particular area of the level like a little bit more distinct, that it's actually like a greener sort of section here. See how that works out in the end. Maybe we should perhaps put a scale mannequin here to remind us of the size. Everything is just so big. And that of course is sort of allowed when considering that the real characters of this game are the vehicles, not the actual people. And I think the trees should probably reflect this as well. We have a lot of green here, and that's probably fine. It might be a little too much green here. I think up here there should be significantly less green, so we just basically go in and replace a whole bunch of these things with like yellow and red ones. I wasn't kind of originally even supposed to use these trees here. Let's get one on the other side. Branch. I wasn't originally going to use these trees here in this level, but it kind of just that's what happened. Let's see, branch. Let's do that one. That's the red one. Red. red. More red here as well. This is definitely too green. It is still possible that I will actually replace this with something else, but well, I don't know. That remains to be seen. Yeah, there's a little too much green here. I want like a healthy mix. Yeah. Alrighty then. We'll just say your voices may be a little quiet versus the music. Thank you. Thank you. Let's bump that up a little bit. Actually, let's pull the music down, like so. And then let's see. Right, I don't necessarily want to... I can maybe raise my mic a little bit here. Maybe we can do... Let me know in the chat here if I somehow sort of mess up my audio levels. Let's bump this maybe half a decibel actually each. Actually, let's not do that. Let's do desktop audio a little bit and mic a little more. So how is this? Is this better? Thank you, Matt. That's very kind of you to let me know. All right, let's go with this for a little while and see how it actually. Seems good. Okay. Well, as always, and at any point, if my setup, video or audio, is somehow less than stellar, let me know. And like I mentioned previously, for those of you who weren't here, this is a little bit of a test stream in the sense that I upgraded my internet connection, and I also messed around a little bit with the streaming quality settings in OBS. So I'm hoping that the video quality at least is a lot nicer now than it has been. And at least depending, or at least based on the YouTube widget, which tells me that does seem to be pretty good currently. Either that or I'm going deaf at 29. Yeah, well, I wouldn't necessarily put it past me to have spoken very quietly. Sometimes when I'm concentrating on something, I just go like, yeah, sure. What's the max bitrate? I don't know actually. I don't know what it is. Let's see. What did I? I think the bitrate setting I left at the default now. So it's yeah, I'm using constant bitrate and 10,000 kilobits per second with this, and I'll let you be the judge of how you know how good this looks streaming quality wise. The upstream for our internet connection now compared to the last stream that I did about a week ago is about double. So like theoretically it's 100, which is not super impressive in this day and age, but it's significantly better than it was. I think it was theoretically 50, but it never really got to 50 previously. So it's now it's theoretically 100, and it gets to like 80 or something. So it should be a lot nicer. What YouTube supports, I'm not sure. I think I'm pretty far from being able to stream at that quality anyway with our crappy wireless connections over here. Your smaller editor text is clear, so all good there. Okay. Did it used to be? Is that like an improvement, or is it just like I can read it now and I was able to read it previously? I think like certain things just didn't work before. I remember there was one thing which, if I enabled the stream, it just absolutely broke down. Actually, let's try that out right now. I need to go to the other level for that. You can let me know how this looks if you want to, but I can also look at it in the VOD afterwards. So what I'm talking about here is visualizing the light probe mesh. Visualizing the light probe mesh and moving the camera, that just absolutely broke the image completely. It just broke down. Let's let it render those light probes quickly here, since we're gonna be messing with them anyway. And yeah, I can look at this in the VOD later on to see how well it actually came out. And I think that has to do actually with it's not necessarily my internet connection's fault, but just the fact that we have these lines that go everywhere, and the video compression just kind of like doesn't know how to handle that. Light probes, this thing. So if I move the camera like this, this thing just absolutely broke the stream previously, and I guess it still might do that. You can see that currently on the screen. I can't, but I can see it later when I look at this. Just moving this around and like burp. So lines like this are like absolute killer for a video compression algorithm typically, because like it can't really use any sort of incremental frames to do anything. So it'll be interesting to see what this looks like with the new one. Yeah. All right. Let's go back to the work at hand. Right, so we had a little bit of a dip in viewers there previously, but seem to be regaining most of you. So, to all the new ones, welcome, welcome. Glad to have you. Today we're doing a little bit of terrain painting. And actually we have the entire level now have something other than the default debug texture color there. That's nice. Let's turn off the fog for a second and look at it like this. So about half of it is like I've done like a first pass on terrain painting. That's pretty nice. Then we have this section here, and then after the tunnel there, most of this is starting to look kind of all right. Now we have this kind of strange but also kind of cool fade to green here, which is all right, I guess. It's all right. What we could do, of course, is like start to paint grass and stuff here in this valley. This little glade here, and then sort of join here in the middle, coming from this direction and from this direction. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think I want to do the roads first. The lines are clear. Okay, cool. The lines are clear. I should really have upgraded to the 5G connection earlier. Yeah, the guy in the store kind of laughed at me. Which I guess is fair enough. It was just like, right, so you're using technology from like the the 2000s, and you're paying more than for a modern connection, so how about we upgrade it? Fair enough. This part of the road here is a little annoying. There's a clear dip here, which was a sort of planned a little bit, but I think I want to make that slightly less annoying here to drive. So let's drive there quickly. We've always had good internet options around us despite being in a more rural county. Yeah, the funny thing, if it is funny, it's like, it's not really funny, but still, the funny thing is that like 3 houses over, or is it 4 houses, depending on how you count, they actually have fiber. But the only way to actually sort of have that fiber cable run is kind of like along our road, and the road, like there's a small dirt road that we like live at basically like the end of it, and the only way to like dig that fiber cable is through some pretty tricky places currently. And so you can get fiber here if you just pay, you know, probably like 30,000 euros or something, I don't know, tens of thousands of euros anyway. And I'm just kind of like sort of waiting for the city to do that, because they will have to do it eventually when they do a sort of like an improvement of this area. I don't know what it's called in English, so let's not go there. But they're planning on doing that, and I'm kind of waiting for that, and so that's why I'm still like dealing with these wireless connections. Might be because there's a big radio tower that blasts out a good chunk of the radio stations run by the BBC. Maybe, yeah. Luckily, we have a like a 5G tower pretty close to us. So last time I checked, the 5G cost was pretty high, but now it was, well, cheaper than what we paid previously. So good investment this time around. Okay. Anyway, enough rambling about internet, at least for me, for the time being. So this is a little annoying. There's like a very significant sort of dip there, like a pit that you're driving through, and so I think we want to do something about that, and we can sort of raise that, or we can sort of cut away a piece of the road to make like this area here where I'm standing roughly now, like a bit lower. And I think that might be the way that I want to go. Let's get a carver going here. And carve out the road a little bit. So what do we do? Like maybe 20, 10. Let's not do quite 10, let's do 8. And this can be longer actually. Something like this, and then just sort of carve into the road a little bit. And again, we're gonna have to be careful about carving into that. Like if you carve enough here, we're gonna... Actually, we didn't. We didn't hit the cliff yet. That's nice. Yeah, this seems to be going our way. Maybe a little more. At some point I'm gonna hit that cliff edge there, right? Right, it's there. Okay. Yeah, that looks actually kind of easy to deal with. Let's see. Doesn't really look like a problem after all. Yeah, we can go actually even a bit deeper if we want to, but let's see if we want to do that. Maybe just a smudge, because again we want to have the road sort of be sitting in sort of like a pit or a depression all by itself. So let's keep that in mind, that like if we first like dig very deep and then we want to have the road itself sit in an even deeper pit, then that might be an issue. So what if I now do, let's do 20, 20, 20, 20. Like so. Yeah, I think this is starting to look pretty good. We'll probably get rid of that carver for now. Let's fix this quickly. Right. There's a little bit of a dip there still. That's all right. We'll even this out. I mean, it's only natural that there's a little bit of a pit here, because the cliff kind of goes like this, right? But just like I said previously, like you need to drive these roads until you get sick of them when you make a game like this. And if you find a place where you're like, you're kind of subconsciously going like, oh, there's a nasty place coming up next. This has been one of those nasty places. I've sort of not looked forward to driving. And if you find one of those, then you should just fix it. It's gonna feel nasty to everyone, probably. Most likely. I'm sort of designing this level now out of necessity because I need those screenshots. Quite often I kind of really enjoy making levels. Right now I would sort of like almost to work on systems more than levels. And I know I promised some improvements from pre-alpha 1 to you guys. I got a lot of good feedback from that one. I would really like to put some time into like fixing and or implementing and or removing things from the game to sort of in response to that feedback. But I can't quite do that now because I need this level to be in a visually presentable state. That's of course not like thrown away work. This is the level that we need for the campaign anyway, but all that to say, I'm really sort of looking forward to getting to work on features again. Gameplay features. I haven't really done any gameplay features since I launched pre-alpha 1 to you guys. And that's kind of crazy because that's like 2 months ago or something. And of course, if you don't know, if you're new to this, you don't know what I'm talking about, you can actually play the game. You can play a version of this game by joining the Discord. In the Discord, on the Discord server, you can find a link to the game. I'm keeping it in Discord for now because it's kind of early and I appreciate your feedback, so I kind of expect people to perhaps have some issues with it and need some help, and then it's nicer if they're there in the Discord already. Or I can help them out. And indeed other people in the community can also help them out. But kind of soon I will start putting builds onto Steam. And I'm making this level specifically so that I get nicer, or not necessarily nicer, but more screenshots to put on the Steam page. In addition, of course, to being an actual level from the campaign. This. Right. Something like that, maybe. It gets a little wider. The road gets a little wider now when we go into the tunnel there, but I still think that looks perhaps more natural than having it be something else. I don't know, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I want the paint tool, thank you very much. Yeah. And if you would like to join the Discord, then there is a link to it in the description below. And the build is not in any way sort of secret or anything like that. You're quite welcome to share it with your friends and all of that if you would like to, but I don't give out download links currently outside of Discord. But that will probably change pretty soon. Alright, so let's do a little bit of this middle bump here. This is something that my terrain editing tools aren't particularly good at handling for me. I kind of need to do it by hand like this, and then fiddle and tweak with it until I feel like it kind of works. These tools are pretty good at a lot of things, but not all of the things that I actually need. But of course, since this is a dirt road, it doesn't need to be, you know, super straight or anything like that. These things are supposed to be kind of organic looking anyway. And then we need to set up the AI routes to actually be able to follow this road. Or these roads. And that's a whole thing. In fact, I'll probably dedicate a stream relatively soon to just messing around with AI in this level. We've done that in the past with other levels, and that's typically a pretty fun though sometimes kind of annoying thing to do, because, well, it's annoying if you realize that okay, this doesn't really work with the AI all that well, and then you need to either tweak your level or you need to tweak the AI. But we'll see. I don't foresee any big problems with this level. This is a kind of simple level. AI is also one of those things that I haven't really been working on for a pretty long time. It has kind of just worked well enough. But it will need some more work for sure. I don't really like this part here. This looks kind of weird and funky. Let's see what we can do about that. Whoa. Yeah, there's just like a whole lot of this clicking around to get this to look kind of neat. The nice thing is that, like, if you just do this for long enough, even if you don't really have any art skills to speak of, like myself, it just kind of starts to look nice after a while. Kind of just have to believe in the process. This already looks more like a road. It's not quite there, no, but it looks more like a road than it did in the beginning of the stream. A lot of level design is that, I find. Kind of need to have an idea, and then you need to believe in your idea, and then you just need to put in like a whole lot of work. And then it will turn out kind of nice. Not always, but often and eventually. Alright. This looks a little strange and bumpy still. What do we do about that then? Whoa. What? All right. In a second, I think we should probably try to drive this road again and see how it has changed can almost always just immediately see some things that you're like, ugh, that's not nice, that's not nice. Then you go and fix them. Yeah, this is a little strange. Like the road turns that way, but it's sort of like it's like kind of tilting to the left here. That's not a good combination. So what do we do about that? Well, we take a carver, probably, I think. And then we make it like 20.1, maybe 2, something like that. And then we take this higher side, bring that up. Let's see what we can do about this. Sort of cut into this a little bit, probably even a little outside of the road there. Yep, that immediately helped, I would say. Whoop. Yeah, that's just an impossible angle to move that thing. Absolutely impossible. Yeah. This could be kind of nice, and then we can use the same carver, I think, on this side and just like extrude it a little bit here to extrude. It's so close to that nothing actually happens there. There we got a little bit more. We're just sort of filling in that side a little bit to make it a bit more still. There's a strange pit there on the left side. Extrude. Just bring it up. Bring it up. I think even more probably. Yep. Yep. That's probably good. Okay. Actually, smooth this out a little bit. I don't want this to feel like it's like a huge ridge here, which it kind of currently does. Maybe that's fine. And then a bit more sand painting. And kind of just like consider how would these vehicles have turned here. So someone would have gone like that. Maybe a bit further down this as well, and then just like cut some of this out. Why not? And just paint like imperfections essentially into this. It takes a while. Maybe something that an AI could help with these days, but I don't care. I don't want to use AI. I want to do this by hand. Artisanal game development and all of that. this kind of stuff here to give the impression of just like vehicles going every which way. Right, so then we have a material here called darkener, which is quite simply just a black color, which you can apply very faintly to places to just darken things, quite simply. And that can be very, very handy to have, especially in these kind of dirt road scenarios. There just tends to be a lot of like, well, dirt around. I want to be careful because I kind of find myself quite often just I end up doing almost like ambient occlusion with this, which is not actually what we want. Like you might be kind of darkening things under this here to make it look like there's like ambient occlusion there, but you don't want to do that because we have an ambient occlusion system already, and in addition to that we also have, of course, the light maps coming in at some point, which will just do that a whole lot better than what I could do. So basically don't do that. This looks a little strange. Let's kind of break up this silhouette here a little bit. Yep. I think this is starting to come together kind of neatly. What this place here, does this look kind of equally good as the rest of the road? Not necessarily. It's not far off either. Yeah, let's play the game a little bit, see what we have. I'm wondering if I should actually lower the sort of overall slipperiness. Basically increase the friction of some of these base materials a little bit. Like it's a little slidey to drive on some of these roads currently, which is fine, of course. But like, I wonder if it's a little too slidey. Particularly, I think the gravel might be a little too slidey, but I don't know. This is almost like it's a pretty wide road, and one reason why that is because I need to keep the mother vehicle in mind when designing these levels. It needs to be able to move about. This guy, it actually won't fit through the tunnel, and that is by design. But it needs to be able to navigate this area here. And so my roads tend to be, I think the radius is 6, so that would be like a 12 world unit wide road, or 12 meter wide road. That's pretty wide actually. Wider than a typical road in the real life. Yeah, wouldn't necessarily need to be this wide on the other side of the tunnel there, but it is what it is. Maybe we can fly to the other side. If you guys haven't seen, we have a mod which I made for this as a test mod to test out the modding system, which is a flying scout, which completely breaks the campaign. You can just fly about, but that doesn't matter. It's fun to play around with. And when pre-alpha 2 is released, it will have mod support. I'm pretty sure of it by this point. I've been kind of saying that I'm aiming for it, and I'm pretty sure at this point that it will have mod support. I don't think there's any point in not having it included. And when that happens, then I will be releasing this mod as sort of open source, in the sense that it will have the assets and everything, and the code for making this work. So you can just mess around with it and add your own funky vehicles and things to the game if you want to. And it's actually super difficult to steer. It's kind of by design as well, because I don't want to turn this into a flight simulator. But I want people to have the option to like mess around and have fun with this, because it is actually pretty moddable. Is and or will be. Donk. Of course I hit the mast. Why wouldn't I? So yeah, I think when the game is released, I need to kind of like, I don't know, have some sort of disclaimer there that if you play the campaign with mods, then all bets are off. I just completely break the whole scripting of the missions. But then when you're doing sandbox style things, then you can of course do whatever you want. Whatever you want. Yeah, I think this road is starting to look kind of decent. It will need more tweaking for sure. This looks similar to the one on the other side of the level. I'm reaching for the fog setting here. Fog off. And I would say that it kind of is. It's kind of similar. Which is nice. And yeah, it's a bit unnecessarily wide here, but I don't really mind. Bit unnecessarily wide because the mother vehicle can't come here anyway. Can't fit through the tunnel. Yeah, I don't really like how this turned out. Let's do this again. So strength down to almost nothing, and then like something like that maybe. Same thing here. This is not how it would actually look. So kind of erase that and do. Whoa, that's not what we want. Sort of like that. Kind of goes like either here or then here. There's no point they would just be driving here and then straight into the cliff. That would not be a favorable outcome. Here again we can do some of this just painting of these sort of paths that the cars would have taken when they were coming here and dropping off their cargo or whatever. Let's flatten out this a little bit. Yeah, there's like a whole lot of really faint painting involved with this. And when you do it enough, when you do enough of it, then it kind of just starts looking more natural and more believable. But you kind of just have to have the stamina to sit here and do this. Click away. Every now and then erase a little bit. But yeah, I hope this provides some background noise for some of you in this fine Sunday evening. Or morning, or night, or midday, whatever it is where you are. All right. Do I use a tablet or just a mouse to draw? It depends. This stuff I now draw with a mouse. I have a tablet somewhere. I don't think it's connected to this computer currently. So this is drawn with a mouse. But then I have actually a drawing screen. What's it called? Cintiq or something like that. Which is just absolutely wonderful. I draw some stuff with it. So like if we go to, let's see, let's go to like probably here. We can go to map refinery and maybe like the gatehouse. Gatehouse has some. A lot of these things have actually some painted crap on them, but I can't remember now which ones are particularly nice. So this thing has a bunch of like stuff painted on them, like this. There's some like crap that's been kind of coming from that vent over there, for example. So we go here to the material. Hello, where are you? There we go. So painted details would be over here. So if you toggle that thing on and off, you can see this, at least I'm hoping you can see it. It's kind of faint, but still. The painted details on buildings like this, I tend to draw this with the drawing tablet. Or that drawing screen, actually. Drawing tablets are kind of interesting. Like, I never really got used to drawing with a tablet. Perhaps interestingly. But the drawing screen is just like, is just super nice to draw with. Something with like the fact that you're drawing somewhere and the result appears somewhere else, just like my brain just can't connect those two somehow. Or like you have the warehouse large, and in here on the ground, actually we can probably hide that. You can see here, this is like the ground, or the floor of the large warehouse. I painted like a little bit of, actually kind of like a slightly similar things that what we just did there in the level editor. Sort of like, okay, the vehicles enter here through the entrance here, and then they do something here inside of this warehouse, and then they leave. So, you know, the painted details, that would be probably here again. Nope, that's not it. Is it that one? Nope. Is it that one? Nope. Where is it? Painted details. It would be that one. Okay, strange. Oh, it helps if I have the correct material, of course. It's probably that one, right? Yeah. Yeah, you can see like there's a pretty large difference there. Just having it be like that, almost like single colored with a pattern, and then putting the crap putting the crap on it. Or, you know, the mother vehicle means vehicles. Mother. So where do we have the chassis? There's the chassis. This thing has a bunch of crap on it here that you can see. This is all painted. With the tablet, it's like a gamepad. You don't look at it when you get used to it. Yeah, I guess that's a pretty good analogy. And I'm sure I could get used to that with enough practice. But yeah, today and here on this stream, I draw with a mouse. I draw this kind of stuff with a mouse. Also, my level editor isn't really. I guess it probably might work with like the basic, just sort of emulating a mouse sort of functionality would work with the drawing tablet, but it doesn't have any like pressure sensitivity or anything like that. Support for that kind of stuff. That needs to be added separately. And I've known several people, or shall I say, I know several people, several artists in the game industry who actually don't use a mouse a whole lot. They kind of just use their drawing tablet. They probably have a mouse tucked away somewhere, and probably have to use it for some things that just don't work with a drawing tablet. But some people just like use their drawing tablet as their mouse. It doesn't matter if they're like logging their hours for the day into some management software, or they're actually drawing something. They just use the tablet as a mouse. Righty-o. Let's do a little bit of darkening here. Not too much. It can quickly get sort of overwhelming. Yeah, this thing just looks stupid. I need to fix that. This sand pit that we created last time. Now that we actually have some colors here. Sand. Fill in some of this. So this thing here, like, needs to be a lot sort of fainter. This. And it should probably kind of flow into the rest of the sand around. Maybe we'll want to have something like this. Like there are a few of these kind of like streams. Again, if we consider like how water would flow or would have flowed. Is the correct term. Then will look something like this. Speaking of flow, I actually saw the movie Flow yesterday in theaters, or in a movie theater. It was really good. Mostly made in Blender, as far as I know. Highly recommended if you want to check it out. Kids liked it too. Something like that already looks more natural than it did. Basically did not look natural previously. What about here then? I think we're looking at perhaps like a half an hour more of today's stream. I'm really encouraged by the new technical setup that I have here. I don't think I've seen any sort of bitrate warnings or anything like a single time here. I was kind of expecting to find some of that, but like it seems to be really rock solid now. So hopefully that shows on your end as well. And if there are some issues, then I'm gonna have to figure those out, obviously. But that I consider that part of this stream to be a success. Sounding success, the whole sort of testing out the new internet connection deal. So that's neat. What do we have here? Oh, the thing just ends there, right? Stream looks better. Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. It has been pretty bad in the past. I know. Sometimes I've gone like, that was a nice stream, and then I look at the VOD later on just to find out, remind myself what someone said, or someone had like a tip for me or something, and I'm like, ooh, the quality is really bad. Yeah, a 5G connection and perhaps better streaming settings seem to have made what it said on the can. So that's neat. Yeah, I've been thinking I might want to subscribe to one of these services that do royalty-free music for streams and videos. Just like this music is fine. I'm glad it's on YouTube and you can use it. Even though with this particular playlist my videos tend to get claimed, but that's, like I've said previously, that's fine. I don't really monetize these videos or anything. But it would be nice to get like perhaps a little more interesting music every now and then. This ambient stuff is maybe not always that interesting. So maybe I'll do that. I'll have to think about it. There's some services that you can subscribe to get access to a large music library. I don't know the quality of those might not be Not to be necessarily as good as I believe they are, but we'll see. Of course, the nicest thing would be if I could somehow pay someone. I don't know exactly who that would be, but if I could pay someone to be able to just like play music from like Spotify for an hour or 2 or 5, so that it would be completely legal and everything, basically like acting like a small radio, channel for the duration of a stream, and it would pay like 10 or 50 euros or something like that. I would definitely do it. Absolutely. Of course, I can always do that and just like not have any music for you guys. You could listen to Spotify on your own end, and I would listen to Spotify here and not stream that to you guys. That is possible. But in an ideal world, I could just blast music to you guys as well. That of course means that you would have to be fine with my music selection. But we can do that, so it's really kind of a moot point. All right. I think we're gonna want to maybe raise this a little more, lower other parts of it. I have way too much strength here. All right. Well, isn't this already starting to look more like a place? With a little bit of terrain painting. Don't even have any grass here yet. Grass just tends to, at least for me personally, just tends to bring the whole composition to a completely different level. When the terrain no longer looks just like a painted kind of surface of something, it's more like it has a little bit of depth and everything. At least that's kind of how I see it. here I think I want to try to raise this up. Is this like, yeah, that's a whole, it's like one game object. It's a collection of trees rather than a single object. Okay, that just means that we can't like move these individually. We can of course just recreate this exact same setup with those individual trees if we don't use a collection here. But currently we have a collection, so let's try to use it. But I'm gonna want to bring these up a little bit. I think that's gonna look nicer. That and bring it up kind of equally here. I'm having a little bit of trouble actually raising this so that it kind of stays up there. Something like that, and now we can start to even it out. Yeah. Yeah, this is gonna work. Yep, that's better. That looks more natural because it's just not it's not just a flat surface, this entire area. That tends to be how I model these things. First I make it like a flat surface and then I go in and add variation to it later on. Yep. This is sort of like this whole section is kind of like a edge of the level here. I want to kind of bring this up, kind of nicely bookend the level here. So raised terrain. Mm-hmm. Yep. little bit of painting here in this area as well. Probably not gonna do like a whole lot today. Maybe a little, we'll see. Yeah, we need to do something here to this. These trees now look like they have indeed just been plonked here from a level editor, which of course they have. That's not what it's supposed to look like though. Maybe we'll want to actually add one more here to sort of break up the... Now this just looks like a collection of trees. Again, which of course it is. Let's not have it look like that. Let's break up the sort of group a little bit by having a separate one here. Or something. I don't know exactly where I want to put it. This tree would sooner or later be an issue for this monorail. Luckily we don't have to worry about that. Whoa. Alright, way too much strength again to my brush here. Yeah, sometimes the scales are like a little silly. Like I have my strength set to 0.05, and that is like, that way you can do these small tweaks. You can of course even set it to smaller if you want to, like 0.01. But it's a little stupid that you have to put it down that low. The scale is a bit wonky there on the setting. Bring those up a little more. And we have some space here to raise this up even a bit more. Even a bit more. Or a bit more still. Yeah, now that we have like a little bit of interest here in the ground, it doesn't look anymore like someone just put down some trees somewhere and moved on. Actually looks like there was a little bit of thought put into it. Or perhaps more importantly, it looks like it's actually like a collection of trees here with the ground raised a little bit. We can perhaps even bring this even further up. Like compared to the other level, you won't actually get to ride this monorail here because, of course, the monorail has been broken. It's been broken and destroyed over there. So I don't really need to care about like, okay, are these trees too close to the thing and all of that, but it of course still makes sense to think about that from like a believability perspective. Again with the believability. It's always an issue. I think this could be sand here. Why not? Actually, does this actually need to be here at all? Yeah, I can just bring that down. A bit more still, I think. Yeah, that looks better. Let's clamp it to that height. Something like that. And then these can be sitting in a little bit of a pit. Like this. It tends to look pretty alright when you do. To be careful not to make it too deep, but a little bit of a pit can look kind of neat, especially then when we have grass and stuff around it. Tends to look all right. Let's do the same here. Something like that, maybe. Strength too high again. Right. Yeah, there's always like the issue with some of these painting tools requiring a bit more strength to achieve like sort of like the same thing. Like the height field painting tools require very little strength actually compared to the like texture painting tools. So I have to sort of switch between those two modes to kind of like I want to dig like a small pit somewhere and also color it sort of accordingly. First I have to dig the pit there with very little strength, and then probably do the any sort of smoothing. Those are both height field edit operations. And then paint the texture, and the texture painting requires significantly more for kind of what seems like, you know, an equal amount of change, if that makes sense. Basically my tool's strength requirements aren't really normalized. That's what I'm trying to say here. Kind of yank them back and forth. Oh, hitting my microphone. All right, so I wonder how long I want to do this today still. I think I might want to actually do like a pass on this area here. We've done a pass almost everything here. You can actually paint a little bit of sand in here as well. But yeah, I think I might want to do like a pass on this, like on this side of the road. Not necessarily go onto this side of the road today. We'll see. At least this side here before the tunnel. and then maybe call it a day. We'll see how long that actually takes. But something like that, I think. Split those up a little bit, why not? And then I have a plan to probably do a little bit of painting on these cliffs. I'm trying a new art style for the cliffs in this level. And I think this kind of needs a little bit of hand-painted detail to look really good, this art style. But I'm pretty happy with how it has turned out so far. I think it looks significantly better than what I have in the other level, which is a little bit terrifying because it might mean that I have to redo those cliffs, but that will come later. And if I do it, I'll basically just keep the exact same sort of level layout and just redo the cliffs. Yeah, here you can see like textured, not textured. That's why they look different. Yeah, this piece here at the end is not done yet. And the reason it is not done yet is because I actually need, for gameplay reasons, I need some sort of barrier there, which I haven't really figured out. Some sort of gate, essentially, next to the tunnel, or perhaps even inside the tunnel. I haven't exactly figured out how I want to do that yet. So it's not modeled, and because it's not modeled, I don't want to do any sort of texturing until I know I have it in a state where it works with the mission that I'm planning for this level. So that's why that piece is untextured currently. Right, same thing with these guys here. Lift up the terrain a little bit. Oh yeah, I don't know how enjoyable this is to watch or listen to. But pretty soon I will go back to actually doing gameplay programming. And at that point, if you are someone who is interested in gameplay programming, then be sure to check that out. I've actually done quite a lot of gameplay programming on stream previously. I haven't done any in a while, because quite frankly I haven't done any gameplay programming in a while. But that stuff is coming up. Can't say exactly when, but I have a whole list of things I need to do. I want to do and I need to do for the gameplay. So if that sounds interesting, then be sure to stay tuned and subscribed and bell notified and all of that. And there should be some gameplay streams heading your way sooner or later. And maybe we'll even do a little bit of mod programming. I have a few mods in mind that I might want to just do on stream, acting as a sort of tutorial almost for how to do modding, but I think that will probably happen at the end of the summer, or at the earliest, because I want to get the version, I want to get pre-alpha out to you guys, and pre-alpha 2 out to you guys. Pre-alpha 2 will have modding support, so that should be interesting if you are interested in messing around with the game and breaking it in spectacular and hilarious ways. All right, yeah. I kind of think I need to do a little bit of grass here to continue with this side. I think grass is now needed to make this look nicer. And then I will continue the painting when I have a little bit of grass in place. But let's not do that now, because it's like a completely different thing. I don't want to start that, but we can do a little bit of painting here on the other side instead. Yep. Right, do we have any bottom side to that rock? We do not, so let's raise the terrain to cover it up. Yep. Yeah, we've gotten quite a lot of stuff done today. This place is significantly more detailed than it was a few hours ago. What has it been? 3 hours 20 minutes. And 10-15 minute break. So yeah, that's 3 hours of solid work right there. That's nice. All right. Let's do a playthrough, a drive-through of this area and see what we have. So something catastrophically wrong here. I should probably add like a feature to the editor which would allow me to click somewhere and go like play from here, right? And then it would start the game and that's one thing that I want to fix. Where was it? There we go. There's some annoying bump there. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, it would be useful if you could launch the game from a particular place in the level. Would be very handy in these kinds of cases where like you get spawned here, but actually you want to kind of get spawned here. And of course we can just do scout and here we are. Yeah, that place with these trees is completely unfigured out still. Yeah, there's quite a lot of stuff here still to do, clearly. But it is coming together. Play from here like in UE 405. Yeah, I haven't really used UE 405. But yeah, sure. If they have a feature like that, then I would assume it's probably the same sort of thing. I worked with some in-game engines that have had that feature, and it's been kind of handy. Yeah, this level is kind of like it's pretty small and intimate. There's not a whole lot of space here to just like speed around. You can get a little bit of speed here in this part. This is slightly more open. You can get some air time here from this. Go like woo, and that is by design. And you can also jump from this. That's why I left like a space here between these trees and just jump woo, out there. Always need to give a little bit of these opportunities to the player to just like jump around if they want to. But then this area here on the other side, this is gonna be like tight and intimate. There's not a whole lot of space to actually move around here. And that is also sort of by design. I don't necessarily regret it. It's just like it's that kind of level. Let's see, blah blah blah. There was something I was thinking of. Right, this thing here. This looks strange. I need to lower this so that there's a bit of more of an angle to this ground here. I think. Yeah, still looks straight there, of course, but that is because of the the angle that you're viewing it at. The viewing angle. Yeah, this will work. Should we put a trio there, maybe? A small one. Maybe a yellow one. Maybe a yellow trio there. I don't know. That doesn't fit, but we can do another one. We can do this one. Yeah, I'll allow it. Right click, and from the context menu you have an option to play from here. Yeah, okay. That sounds like pretty much exactly what I need. And Tony Hawk's Pro traction point, that is something that I'll leave to you guys to implement as a mod. Unless you meant the airtime that I got like a few minutes ago, in which case, sure, it's already there. Okay, let's maybe do something about this still here. I'm sort of talking about ending the stream for a while now, but I need to do this thing. Why not just do it while we're at it? Why not just get on with it? Do it while we're here. So yeah, a little bit of an update what is coming down the pipe. I mentioned in the beginning of the stream that I'm currently working at my so-called other job. I will be doing that for one more week. And then I will be doing a couple of weeks of Madrigal stuff, followed by 2 more weeks of that other job. So it's going to be a little bit of a jumping back and forth between these kinds of things. It can't be helped. The good thing is that after that is done, it's going to be a whole lot of time for me to work on traction point. Probably going to be less of it during the height of summer though, but still a little bit of it, I'm sure. And I don't even remember how many weeks I have then before my next sprint at the studio. Well, yeah, it's a little bit of a Swiss cheese of working on this game now for about a month forwards. But after 1 week, so 1 week from today, it's going to be a couple of weeks of probably quite intense work on Pre-Alpha 2. And probably also this level, just to get those aforementioned Steam store page screenshots going, so I can finally make the Steam page public. There's some other things, other graphics I need to make for that still, but one of the things that are missing and needed for that stuff that I can get from this level. On also for Pre-Alpha 2, we're going to be doing a whole lot of just like systems design, probably gameplay programming, maybe even some UI things. And maybe even some D3, D12 stuff, if I have enough time. So, lots of different things coming down the pipe. And I'll try to stream a bit more than I've done lately. Because it's fun, and I tend to get stuff done when I do stream. But I can't do every kind of work, and every kind of task on streaming. Tend to be mostly like content things, but some programming as well. Especially if it's like sort of like exploratory programming. That can work quite nicely as a stream thingy. Yeah. Yeah, I think this place is coming together pretty nicely, but I will need to probably paint some grass next before I can sort of really continue with this area. That makes sense. And so because of that, I think we're approaching the end here for what is kind of sensible to do right now. Yeah, it looks pretty good. We can do this. We can do. Let's see, what are my launch options here? Yeah, it launches into the other level, so let's just invalidate that thing. And then we can go into the depot level. Blip. Blip. And here we have a version of this now without the stuff we did today. So it looked like this. It looked like this, and now it looks like this. A few hours ago. So that's pretty neat. Yeah. Yep. Starting to look like a place and all of that. All of that stuff. Yeah, this is actually even a little earlier. I haven't exported this in a while, clearly, because like this cliff here is not actually even textured here. But anyway, regardless, content incoming soon then. Yeah, well, I mean, there's always content incoming. There's so many different parts of making a game that it's like, I feel like I'm always working on something, but it's not always necessarily super visible to the outside. Right? Some stuff is just like gets all the hype and all the attention, and then sometimes you can work for a month really hard on something, but it doesn't really come off as having meant anything. But it all needs to be done to ship the thing. Yes. Okay, folks. I think I'm gonna end today's stream here. if you are with me so far, or if you watched until now, then I thank you for your time. I hope this was interesting, or at least kind of nice to have on in the background. If you want to play the game, then be sure to check out the Discord, where you can find a download link to Pre-Alpha 1, Pre-Alpha 2, featuring mod support, is coming before the summer, or at the start of summer. And so that should be fun. And yep, stay tuned for more streams and stuff on the channel. If this is interesting to you, be sure to like, subscribe, press all the buttons, tell your friends, tell your grandma, tell your kids. Maybe not your kids. I don't know if I'm always that kid friendly. But I will be friendly to your grandma. Have a good one, everyone. See you probably in a few days.